Hi! Today we're going to learn about geometric setting. So let's get started off by talking about binomial setting. So we already know what binomial setting is. Binomial setting are the four sets of conditions that the variable must meet so that it can be considered a binomial variable. Okay, so let's start off by stating what those four are. So the first condition is that the trials must be independent. The second one is that the only outcomes are a success or failure. So basically what this is saying is that there are only two outcomes. So if you were dealing with chocolates, you would have, for example, you would only have milk chocolates and dark chocolate, or something like that. So there are only two outcomes, and one of them you define as a success, and the other as a failure. So the one that you define as a success is the one that you want to measure the probability of happening a certain number of times. Now let's move to the third condition. The third condition just says that the probability of a success must remain constant. I don't think you guys can see that, must remain constant. So what does this mean? Well, what this means is basically that for every trial that there is the same probability of success, and therefore that also means that there's the same probability of a failure. And this is because there are only successes or failures. So the failure is the complement of the success, which we know is 1 minus the probability of a success. So that means that if the success is a constant probability, then its complement or failure will also be a constant probability. Now let's move to the fourth condition. So the fourth condition says that there are a fixed number of trials. Okay, so what does this mean? Well, this means that we have, for example, 12 trials. And the gist behind a binomial probability is that it has these three conditions, and it has a fixed number of trials, and you try and find the probability that you get a success X number of times. So you find the probability that X number of trials are successes. And so therefore, you need a fixed number of trials to calculate that. So now let's move on to geometric setting. So geometric setting has the same first three conditions, but the last condition is different. The last condition says that there is not a fixed number of trials. And we'll get to why that is in a second. So, not a fixed number of trials. Okay, so why do we not have a fixed number of trials? Well, to figure this out, let's figure out what we want to find with a geometric variable. So with a geometric variable, we're trying to find the probability that your first success comes on some value y. So let's say you say, and generally x denotes a binomial variable, but we're only talking about these two, binomial variable, and y denotes a geometric variable. Generally speaking, only for these two settings. Okay, so if you're saying that p of x is equal to 3, what this would mean is out of your certain number of trials, let's say 12 trials, you're trying to find the probability that 3 of them are successes. But let's say you say p of y equals 3, then you're trying to say that what is the probability that your first success occurs on the third trial? So as you can see, because you're trying to find what trial number the first success happens on, there's not a fixed number of trials because you stop after you get your success, if we're doing it manually. Okay, so now that we got that cleared out of the way, here we have our geometric setting. The first condition is that the trials must be independent. That means that the outcome of one trial must not affect the outcome of the other trial. 2. The only outcomes are success or failure. Basically, we're just stating here that there are only two outcomes, and they're the complement of each other. 3. The probability of a success must remain constant. So basically, this relates back to condition 1, and this is pretty self-explanatory. It also implies that because the probability of a success remains constant, the probability of a failure also remains constant. And then 4, the one that is different from a binomial setting, states that there is not a fixed number of trials. Okay, so that's it for geometric setting. Thanks for watching this video.